Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Fargo Retro. Today we are going to bring you my top 10 things that I learned from streaming videos every day. So just a couple days ago I turned 30, and as a part of kind of getting back into retro gaming, I endeavored on a little adventure to film myself streaming a video game every day. Part of it was just to try and play a random game out of my collection and make sure that, the hobby that I was getting into was something I actually really enjoyed. And, now that period of time is over, it's important to reflect upon it and try and take away some lessons of, what I learned throughout that process. So without further ado, here are 10 things that I learned from streaming video games every day. So number one, I love video games. I kind of fell off of them a little bit here over the last couple of years as I've become an adult in my 20s, and I definitely kind of stopped playing console games as I kind of started playing PC games as a kid. And really most things I played were pretty good. The few bad games I played were bad for specific reasons, and a lot of them I kind of knew going into them they would be bad. Something I took away from that is don't just buy whatever. Make sure you have a plan with what you're wanting to collect and play. And another thing I noticed is that what started as a 15-minute sort of daily goal of playing video games pretty quickly ballooned up to 30 minutes to an hour every day. So, I think I really like video games. So number two is it's a lot harder than you think it is. You'd think just signing on, playing some video games, and calling it a day would be, would be pretty easy. But there were a lot of technical issues along the way. It's hard to play a game and then play it properly and actually comment on it as you're doing it. And then trying to add in sort of that component where you're talking to the community while you're playing really made it difficult. My setup wasn't set up to even see comments for 4 or 6 months. So I was surprised how much work really went into it. Number three, a surprising amount of behind the scenes work as well goes into it. Even picking a game every day started to become a hassle. What have I played? What have I not played? Are there any themes or any series, any sort of weeks I'm trying to do? Beyond that, just the sort of graphic design takes a lot of work, obviously. I don't really have much more than paint skills. I was really surprised that everything was so much work. And a lot of it was behind the scenes work. Number four, I could do anything daily. One thing that was really cool about playing video games every day or making time to play a video game every day was, it kind of proved to me that I could do anything daily, whether that's, cook or clean or do laundry, I guess, or go to the gym even. If you can find, 15 minutes to an hour to play a video game every day, you could probably find 15 minutes of an hour to do something more productive. Number five, something I found out was following your dreams takes work. I kind of figured that I would just jump into it and I wouldn't have to put in, I was kind of expecting to see even progress on kind of all of the actions that I was engaging in as a part of this process. And realistically, unless you were actively flexing those muscles, and that included graphic design, commenting while live streaming, unless I was actively flexing those muscles, they weren't really getting improved. So, I think I kind of did an okay job with probably what was already my strongest point, which was sort of commentary, kind of like the radio show sort of effect of the gaming. And so that was kind of what I focused on. And so, unfortunately, I don't think I made a lot of progress in regards to, editing or photo design or some of that stuff. So number six, something I learned here is that I really like the Paradox Grand Strategy games. Paradox is a Swedish company, and they make grand strategy games, which are oftentimes historical for PC. And really, that was kind of as I transitioned into PC gaming, I found a couple of Paradox games, Europa Universalis 2 and Hearts of Iron 2, and those kind of, took my attention span and kind of held it for the last 10, 12 years or so. And even after playing a bunch of retro games and getting some real high quality titles, I still find myself preferring those games, still going back to Stellaris, EU4, CK2. Yeah, so I really think that, whatever feelings I have for Paradox games, must be true, because, they really stack up well against, some of the older classics that I've been playing recently. Number 7, on a very related note, I really like Bethesda open world RPGs. I'm willing to admit that Fallout 4 might not even be a good RPG. Certainly not as good an RPG as even New Vegas. It certainly isn't as good as, Fallout 1 or 2. But that doesn't matter. It's a better game. It's a tighter action game. Kind of the freedom you have to create your character in your manner you want. It's really second to none. And obviously Skyrim made my list of top 10 games, and I've been playing a lot of Skyrim recently, and I love Final Fantasy VI, I really do, but there's something new and fresh to do in Skyrim, and I can mod it and I can do whatever, and if I'm get bored of that, hop into some Fallout. I'm really surprised how well some of the newer games held up, or even were better than some of the retro games. And I think Bethesda's open world RPGs are absolutely some of the best gaming you can get into right now, and I definitely recommend them if you haven't played them yet. So number 8 is, I think this is kind of obvious, but gaming is expensive, even on a budget. A lot of people may have gotten into retro gaming in the past because, you get 30 Nintendo games, 30 NES games for $40. And those days are long since passed, but they, and depending on, they may be back or whatever, but, even with, a game being $20 or $30 and being, more expensive, it's still way cheaper than what you're buying it at retail. So if you're buying games at retail, $60 thinking they're an investment, you're probably wasting your time. Better ways to invest your money. And similarly, even some of the games that are really breaking the bank, $200, $300, $400 or whatever, that's only 5 or 6 times worth what you spent. And if you bought every piece of shovelware sort of game, that was out there, expecting them to all be worth money down the road, you'd be sorely disappointed. And realistically, if you would not make your money back. So with how expensive gaming is, even on a budget, anything can be bought online. So it's super important to find a budget, see what you can spend on money, stick to it, and I think have a plan of what kind of games you're looking for, and don't just buy junk titles unless you're really planning on getting a complete collection or whatever, because I do have a number of titles that I picked up that I'm probably not going to play, and that kind of sucks, because that's, $3, $4, $5 each that could have gone to something else, that would have really added up towards a Earthbound or a Harvest Moon or something like that. So number 9, you need a lot of time and a lot of space to get into game collecting. Especially depending on where you live, you just may not have the options. Up here, I live in Fargo. There's not a ton of items that hit the market. There's, a good 10, 12, 15 collectors now that are actively searching it every day. And so, finding those sort of deals aren't necessarily going to be, daily, weekly, or even a monthly occurrence. And you may really have to put in the time to try and find good deals, find neat things out in the wild. By the same token, it takes up a lot of space. I've, got probably over 1,000 games, for sure over 1,000 games at this point. And I have them in 3, sort of places. And while they're not, it's been a constant struggle. It definitely has. So, time and space are going to be your biggest, and then your budget, time, space, and money are going to be your biggest, concerns when it comes to retro gaming. And then the number 10, the most important thing I think I learned from playing video games for a year, for streaming video games for a year, and collecting retro games and all that, is I personally believe the most important facet of any video game when it's being designed is the user interface. all of the games that were bad experiences were just, I was trying stuff with my hands and not getting me the results I was expecting to out of the game. Really, I guess I would sum it up as how much energy do you need to put in to get out what function of value out. And I guess what I mean by that is, even with the Paradox games where there's very high learning curves and they're not easy, you know, I wouldn't say they're pretty or easy to use user interfaces, but putting in the time for me to master those things, I get tons of value out of them. I get to simulate an entire country. And so, sure, there's some challenges with some of the user interface, and it is a little clunkier than I'd like, but what I'm getting out of it is amazing. You know, similarly, like with Dwarf Fortress really could have made my list of favorite games, and it has one of the most obscure, ASCII-based, crazy cryptic menus or whatever, but for ease of use, like, I know what I'm doing. I can navigate those menus okay with the structure they provided me. But what I'm able to get out of the game in regards to that level of simulation and that sort of ability to create a story is totally unmatched. And, you know, I was talking earlier about some of those Bethesda games. I spend so much time in the user interface, you know what I mean? I spend so much time just moving stuff from one side of the house to the other, being slowed down or whatever. You know, I really think user interface, what do your hands and your time get out of the game, is the most critical part of a video game. It's kind of why I'm so excited about VR, so, you know, mentally in love with VR, is I feel like, you know, you'll get more out of it when you're using your hands, when you're looking around, and to a degree, you're really getting that with Skyrim. When I was harvesting, you know, loot, when I was gathering plants and fishes and whatever, bugs, like, it was really cool. It was a great way to do it. It was a much better way than, you know, moving the controller, moving the joysticks on the controller, pointing at it, pressing a button. That, you know, for what I got out of that wasn't a ton. You know, hop off your horse, grab a plant, get back up on it. That was no good. But when you're just walking and you can reach your hand out and just grab something, you know, that was that sort of user interface level game changer needed to really improve that experience. So, you know, I guess if you learn nothing else from me here, don't spend a ton of money on video games. Make sure you have a really good plan of what it is you're after while you're collecting. And if you're a video game designer, make sure the user interface, the inputs that I'm putting in, get me something out of it. You know, make sure that there's some value or some immediate sort of, you know, benefit for me taking these arduous actions. All right, so I think that's pretty much all I've learned from playing these video games. If you've sort of embarked on any sort of, you know, year-long passion projects or anything like that, what did you learn about yourself and that project? You know, definitely comment below anything you agree with, anything you don't agree with. Feel free to share with your friends. I will hopefully bring you some more video game related content here going forward. But, you know, I just wanted to get some of that stuff out of my head. You know, having, you know, again, it's, you know, important to reflect anytime you do something. You know, what was good? What could you have done differently? What would you improve going forward? And try and learn some lessons or pass some of those lessons on to somebody else. So, you know, thanks for watching. You know, definitely like, comment, subscribe. Helps me out a ton. And, you know, stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.